Live now. We're live.
Peace. Peace, and blessings, family. Peace and blessings. Welcome to Constructive Convos, where we bring the conversation back to black. Yeah, we got an interesting topic for you today. And we're going to be talking about protecting our leaders and how important that is in our nation building series. So, how important it is to protect our leaders, their legacy, their lives, their image, everything. So, without further ado, let's say what's up and have the panel members have opportunity to greet the family. We have our brother B2.
Blessings, family. Big up everyone. Powers.
We have our brother, Sister Fatima.
Hey, how's everyone? Peace.
Brother Witness.
Peace and greetings to everybody in the chat and in the hangout.
And I'm the one and only melanated goddess. Yes, and so let's just jump right into this topic. You know, uh, I think that the group felt that talking about our leaders is an important part, especially when you're talking about the nation building. We talked about the family. We talked about economics. What was the other one we talked about? Family. B2.
Public image.
Public image. They're talking about in the nation building. I think it was discipline. Was it discipline?
Yeah, we also talked about polygamy and polyandry as well.
Oh yeah, sorry, polygamy.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And those are like really important things when you're talking about building a nation. But building a nation, a true nation, it's important to have leaders, right? So I think it's important to start the discussion, at least by us, getting a sense, a consensus of what are some characteristics that, we think are important in a leader. Like when you think leader, what comes to mind?
To me, I would say patience. That's one thing which comes up, patience. And, well, actually, no, scrap that. The first thing I would say is humility. The last thing you want is a leader who is arrogant and dictatorial. So humility is important.
Okay. Humility. Anyone else?
I think, yeah. Patience, well calculated, resourceful, a wide field of vision, if you like, holistic view. Yeah, but again, I think it's depending on whatever it is they're in the leadership role for, is going to sort of inform what sort of skills are going to be the key attributes. Big up with the being in the chats, big up Amelia. Bless up 1-1, Raz, big up family. Yeah, so that's my answer.
Okay. Before I give my answer, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us. I know that you could be anywhere, but you chose to be here with us, family. Building. So that's what's up. If you haven't already, please hit the notification bell. I know that you guys are committed and you're here with us on a weekly basis, and we want to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. We want to make sure that we're connecting with the family because we're doing this for a purpose, a bigger purpose, right? We want to be able to galvanize. We want to be able to, move when it's time to move. We want to be able to disseminate this community information to you. So we want to make sure that you're able to get it. So subscribe, number one, and also hit that notification bell so you get the notification in case we want to have a show on a Wednesday. Then you're going to get the show. You're not just waiting for us on Monday. All right? Cool.
Trust. And also, as well as being able to galvanize, we want as well to have a wide, diverse pool of ideas when it comes to like solution finding. You know what I mean? So it'll be good to hear the different perspectives that we have within our community. So the more people we have following and listening in and passing it on, the more representative discussion can be. If that makes sense as well.
Yeah, so if you can, if you have an idea that hasn't been shared already, write in the chat, what's a leader to you? What are some things that you feel that are good characteristics for a leader to have? Because then it can help everyone be able to identify leadership qualities or, just someone who's going in that direction. Peace, brother, solving a race problem. See you in the building. If we could kind of, share in that way. So we want to be interactive with you, family. What I would say is good leadership qualities for me is someone who is really good at making decisions, especially under pressure, making decisions, strategy, planning things out. And I also think being a good speaker. When you think about a lot of our leaders, I feel like they were really good speakers. Some of them, you can argue that they weren't good leaders, but they were good speakers. But that's a whole different subject matter. But I would definitely say being able to move people. Like I don't think that Marcus Garvey was just a smart man. I don't think that Marcus Garvey was just a man who had a plan, but Marcus Garvey was a smart man. He had a plan and he was able to communicate that and reach so many people of different belief systems and make all of them get on the same page. And to me, that's powerful. So, that for me, those are, my little tidbits about, what are characteristics of a good leader.
Fatima, what do you think about that? What do you think a leader should have?
I think that patience would definitely have to be a big one. I say this because when it comes to patience, I think that it can be kind of like we live in such a fast-paced world that it can be kind of time consuming and a little hard and frustrating to really sort of try to meet everybody's demands, while at the same time as well being fair and just. So I think that patience would definitely have to be up there. Not saying that like anyone's a superhero or anybody's perfect, but when there's a lack of patience, like I feel like tolerance also goes down. And when there's no tolerance, the communication is pretty much out the window, and nothing really. It's just everyone kind of going their separate ways after that. So that's why I'm speaking and emphasizing on patience.
Indeed. Patience. You need patience, especially when you are leading on a large scale. When a person is frustrated, they can easily go awry. So I definitely agree with you, sis, on that. So
we still have one thing that I think we need to say. Well, there's a lot of stuff.
Oh, okay.
We also need a leader who is a one-woman man. Too many leaders in the past from certain organizations have become womanizers and end up having more than one woman behind the scene. That needs to stop. So you need a guy who embodies marriage, married to one woman, none of these mistresses or 4 wives or anything, or 5 wives, none of that rubbish.
I.e. not a misogynist. Hey!
Yo, we can't hide from this misogynist topic. You know what I'm saying? This misogyny in the air.
Yep.
But I think it's
yeah, this is fake
I
news.
think
That's
it's really.
You said what?
No, I was just to say, I mean, as much as I was being a little bit facetious, yeah, I think it's an interesting point that Witness raised still, because if we were to look in history, you know what I mean, many a great man has been brought down by a woman. You understand? Even if we go back to the biblical times, I can kind of vaguely remember. You understand what I'm saying to you? So, yeah, I think that's a very good point. That does that mean that we maybe need more anti-men as leaders? Hey,
What?
What's the anti-man?
I don't know what that means, but
I joke me, I make no but a machine gun me, man. Gee. But
anti-man, but I know what you're saying. Okay.
anti-woman, I mean, anti-woman. In terms of, because I mean, not to take the conversation astray, but just to reiterate what Whitney said still, because like I said in it, we know that many a great man even has been brought down by. Anyway, you know what? Let me shut up. Nah.
No,
I'm not continue.
I think. Okay, so when it comes to things that we look for in a leader, right? I think that our leaders, they're we want to make sure that they are embodying the principles that we want to promote in the community. So if we want to promote strong families, then we can't have our leaders getting a divorce or committing adultery or having babies on the outside with the side chick and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? Right. So I don't think that you're in the wrong direction by saying that. I think that it's kind of like, if you're going to talk the talk, then we need to walk the walk. And it's the reason why, we don't have, in America, we don't have a president who's a single man. Like we could have a man president, right? Which we do, but they're always a married man. So it's because they want to demonstrate, have a visual that this is a principle. These are values that we uphold. So I think Witness, that comment was spot on. I think that someone's misconduct in those departments, is a valid issue. So
how many wives has the South African leader got?
You asking? I don't know.
What's his name? Is it Zuma? Witness would know. Which one of them had a bag on him? Witness.
Jacob Zuma.
There you go. So I was correct. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Zuma. Strange character.
And I don't know if I'm correct. I mean, again, please do correct me, Witness. But did that kind of did that cause him any problems in his thing? In his thing?
I can't remember, but there's always tension. But it's in the background. They try and keep it hush hush. But I don't know if it became public. I can't remember.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, without taking the conversation, left again. But as well as we're saying that, I think we also have to remember that there are such things as what do they call them? Like sex kittens, like. So the point I'm making is that I'm sure that there's many a man that did try to keep themselves a certain way, but you know what I mean? Powers that be just kept sending them, sex kittens and just upping the ante, as it were. Because we know that, historically there are such things. Do we all agree?
Oh yeah. Well, sis, those things definitely occur in in the whole like climb to leadership, and that brings us to the point of I think that's an area you're kind of going into the next question I was going to ask. That's an area where I believe our leaders need to be protected. But so the question I'm gonna throw out to all of you all is, what does protection or support, what does that look like? What are some ways or areas that you feel that our leaders need to be protected or need to be supported in?
That's such an interesting question, sis, man. Yeah, dear.
When you say protection, I mean, the first thing that pops into my head is like the Nation of Islam. Their leaders have protection. They have their own system of protection. Is that what you mean? Security?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So you're talking about like physical security, correct?
Yep. So definitely that would have to exist without a shadow of doubt. They need
Okay.
that. And then you need someone we need security in the sense, they would need security in the sense of PR, public relations, dealing with the media, having someone who would prep them before they go on stage or go onto a TV studio to talk so they don't make mistakes. The same kind of advice like politicians get. They always have some PR person, someone who works with the media, who's in touch with the media, the press, and knows what to say and how to say it, and preps them. So they would need that type of security as well. Definitely.
So PR, security. What else we got?
So we're asking in terms of how to protect our leaders, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I thought gossip is one of them, isn't it? Like,
say that one more time.
Gossip. Sometimes through gossip, we hang people with the court of public opinion. You know,
Okay.
so I think, with our leaders, like, we give them the benefit of the doubt for one, but two, don't be engaging with conversation with other people about them in a negative light, and there's no benefit.
That's a very interesting one. Saying don't entertain and gossip, right? So, and I'm just just playing the goddess advocate here, we're playing the goddess advocate. That what if I'm sharing something with Sister Nine, and I'm just saying it like it's news, like like, hey, well, did you hear this? Like, I'm not gossiping. I'm like, this is what's going on in our community. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if everyone is seeing it as gossip.
Yeah, I get that. There's like having a question on about something and raising awareness in it. There's like that point in it. Then there's the point where it just becomes like too regular, in it. Like for me, when certain of these documentaries and stuff come out, it's like okay. Like when I know what it is, now I'm not gonna like allow people to then start engaging in conversation with about it all the time. It's like, come on, man. Like you want to talk about things with people from outside of the community coming to highlight this thing, but not highlighting nothing from their own community, and then people from outside the community want to come and talk to me about it. It's like, no, drop me out, man. Focus on your thing. But people want to talk about it, and then not talk about it in a direction that something is going to happen, but just talk about it. It's long.
Yeah, I agree to this. I think as individuals within, as part of the bigger group, we need to be more on top of our own plate primarily. And a lot of the time, people are talking and observing on other people's things and not necessarily got their own house in order. And that's not helpful to necessarily the person that we're observing, nor is it to our own commitments that we should be, It doesn't really help anyone, really. But I get what you're saying, though, at the same time, though, like, because defining what is gossip and what is, like, communication, just between two parties.
Yeah, like I suppose legally as well, like we need some kind of protection, because I suppose it's difficult with the members that are, you know, a bit more withdrawn in it, because people might not know them so much, and then like certain allegations, it's much easier to put them on them, and people are like, loads of people are saying it, you know, because like, how do we stop something like that? You know, say someone that is, you know, up and coming leader, and now there's 50 women that come out and say that they touched them, but it's not true. What kind of protection is there against that?
Legal protection, wouldn't they? They'd have legal protection. So they'd have a team of lawyers that would be able to provide protection for the leaders in regards to those kind of claims, slanderous claims. So one of the first, like the first one we mentioned was having PR, prepping them in the press, in the media. Then within the company you have, within the organization you have the legal department that specializes in providing legal protection against claims which are made. You also have within the organization, for the leader, a secretive organization that is there to detect any COINTELPRO snakes who are within the organization trying to set up the organization. So you need that as well.
Hey, listen, that's too funny. All right, cool. But brother witness, I think I hear what you're saying. You're talking from a legal defense point of view. I get that, but I think maybe the more trickier part to the question is like the how far can you align or protect them as far as the morality of the claims against them. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, in like R. Kelly as an example, how easy is it to separate the actions that or the claims against him from the individual that is still a member of the community? And if we're calling them a leader, how easy is it to separate from what people are accusing them of?
You see, that's a good point. Within our organization, someone like R. Kelly would never be a leader, because he would have to go through a form of, what's the word? When you go through a form. Yes, thank you. He would be.
But the thing is, though, there's organization and then there's community. And you might not always get the opportunity to see or to screen for those traits that has now resulted where R. Kelly's at. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. It's a lot different than when it's a community. That's different. How do you... Because there are a lot of people who become leaders within a community who I believe have no business being looked at as leaders because they have a lot of faults. So I don't know how you could protect them. Can you protect them? Because we've already seen a week ago, someone who was viewed as a leader within a community was murdered. So he didn't have any form of protection physically. And I don't know, legally, I don't know how you could deal with that from... it's a lot easier for me to come up with a solution for like within an organization, but outside of the organization, when it comes to the community, that's a tough one. I can't come up with a solution for that straight away. I have to think about that.
I think where the claims are like particularly heinous, then you can sort of make distinctions and say, look, as far as a person, this is still family. But like sometimes within a family, individuals do bad things, which we can outrightly condemn. That doesn't change their relation, if you like. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that's the only when there are claims that are either confirmed or not confirmed, where it's all ambiguity, that's sort of the safest. I guess that is the legal position, isn't it? Do you know what I'm saying? As far as like ostracizing them from the community, that's a different sort of question, I guess. And I guess that can only really fairly happen with a guilty conviction or guilty verdict from the community.
No, you would think so. You would think so. But one thing I've noticed within America especially, there's certain black men who've become leaders. They suddenly start committing all kinds of atrocious crimes. They get caught out. And then black people then want to say, no, it's a conspiracy against the black man. Even though that person's been doing some nasty stuff with girls, with women, you get black people say, no, it's white supremacy, just building up some conspiracy. So it's a lot tougher. It's like within certain communities, black leaders, especially the male leaders, are built up to such an extent that even when they do wrong, you know, people still try and protect them. We've got leaders who passed away 30 years ago. People are still looking at them like they're saints, even though there's evidence that they were doing some despicable things. So I don't know, like with the community, which you brought up, if that person is praised and honored within a community, even if they do bad things, I still think loads of black people are still going to think that they're gods or something. I don't know.
But see, this is where it comes to for me, yeah. And it comes back to like R. Kelly's thing. Can we separate the good works of an individual from the bad actions of that same individual? Can we separate, like, all right, this person has done good things. They have saved so many lives, and that doesn't change the fact that they've taken lives, maybe, perhaps, or hurt people. But those two are separate things. Can we do that? I think we need to be able to do that, really. I think that's the most plausible solution.
I don't know whether B2. Like, I think I'm kind of, I don't know if that's what Witness was saying, but I just read in the comment, Ultra Funky was like, sorry, B2, for me, I'll drop a family member in a heartbeat if the crime is bad enough. Like, if I have, you know, if I had, let's say, an uncle that paid my tuition to go to college, and I find out that he molested my little sister, I'm not gonna be cool with that uncle. I don't care what he did that was good. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I could say, well, I still honor him for the good that he did. Like, no. No.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying. So in that situation, that would disqualify any other good things that he's ever done.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think
I think when we're talking about like some, especially like our historical leaders, it just opens them up to there is a vulnerability that is difficult to counteract, especially when they've got such a huge public figure, any celebrity, they've got a huge vulnerability. Any accusation is almost immediately going to get traction. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think the difference is, I think with a political figure, our leaders, right? I think it would take a little bit more than accusations, you know, but I think if there's evidence, then I'm not going to ignore the evidence. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that they're fallible just like me, but then if they're fallible just like me, then they deserve the persecution just as I would get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a leader, and if I molested someone, then I would be persecuted. I would receive judgment even from within my own community. So why would they be above that? Like,
no, I agree 100%. But I think it's like in today's like YouTube culture and that accusations, especially to key prominent figures, they do get traction, and it can quickly appear to be fact. Fake news is a thing. Do you know what I mean? So there is a vulnerability, and all it requires is an incentive or an incentivized individual to manipulate and take that opportunity. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely think what you're saying, there is some validity to it. I definitely think that the very fact that they are a leader makes them more vulnerable to these accusations. And I also think that the very fact that our leaders anticipate that the people feel this way, it's possible that they would, you know, that they feel that they could use that, you know. So if you have someone who sees a community as a community that they could exploit, and they could easily exploit it, and then when they start to get heat, and like, oh, see, they're trying to keep Black men down, you know, this is what they do. And then the people will just say, yeah, you know, you guys, you know, forget about my leader that stole all this money. Forget about my leader that went with these white women. Forget about my leader that hurt these children, molested these children. We're just going to overlook all of that because you just want to, you know what I'm saying? And the leader could count on the people taking that perspective. So I'm just saying that, I think a better way to counteract that would be through good publicity. I think that I think we spoke a little bit about this earlier today when we talked. I brought up the fact that it's unfortunate that the people that did know about Nipsey Hussle didn't push and promote him as much as they did after he passed. There should have been people sharing those videos of him, those, hey, there's this guy in Cali and he's doing this. There's this guy, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know anything about the marathon. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff until after he passed away. And that's unfortunate. So when there's so much good publicity, then when you do hear an allegation, you have an overwhelming wealth of positive things to come against it, right? And I think that will help more than just telling the people, hey, they're trying to take down the image of the black man. Like, you know what I mean?
But B2, sorry to cut you, sis. Are you intimating that we are overly susceptible, or not, I said, to negative, what's the word? Behaviors amongst our leaders compared to other communities? Is that what you're trying to say?
Or no, not any more so than any other community. I don't think so. I think the representation when there's allegation, because of course when it's at the allegation phase, nothing's confirmed, nor disputed yet. Do you know what I'm saying? But the way it's represented has been unfair in ways at times towards certain communities over others.
So, I mean, if I were to step into Melanated's role and try that devil's advocate thing, which I'm not very good at, to be fair, but so if we were to, let's try and find sort of comparable celebrities and how they've been treated. So let's not even bother with R. Kelly, yeah? So I'm going to go for like, what's my man name? Cosby and who else? Who would be a good comparison to Cosby? Because we know, yeah, that a lot of the... All right, so Cosby, has he been convicted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cosby's in jail.
Right, so he's in jail, he's been convicted of whatever. So you see all these Weinstein and what's that guy that growed his own daughter?
See, Woody Allen?
Woody Allen, yeah.
Crazy.
The one that actually grew the thing and then took it. Hey. Yeah. Sorry. So if we were to compare, because it could be argued that, do you know what I mean? I mean, for one, let me even say that half of the stuff about Cosby, I don't necessarily believe, yeah? So I'm just going to put that out there. But I just wanted to really just question the, you know what I mean? If we go harder on our failures than others do on theirs kind of thing, you know? Because Cosby was massive for us. We all know that it was about to try and, develop his own network, this, that. Now, at the end of the day, listen, I'm not trying to condemn what he said or done or whatever, supposedly, so don't even get it twisted, but I'm just about in terms of the purpose of this conversation. You understand what I'm saying to you? So they've fully taken him out. And then I still see that these other guys remain good. So, I mean, just going back to a little bit, I'm hoping I'm sort of relating it a little bit to what B2 was saying and that I didn't get it wrong. But I do think that, you understand me, we get under harder scrutiny than others and we suffer more than others. Definitely. Yeah, man. And the mere fact that we know what Bill was up to, You understand me? Before, and the thing is, isn't it? Remember that, you know, at a certain time, all these people are in the same club, as it were. You get me?
Mm.
In the same sex kitten and this, that, and the other. Obviously, Bob done something wrong to go and piss the man them off for him to be in it, you know. Anyway, you know what I'm saying, family. But yeah. Sorry, I digressed a bit, man. You know, I got enough things in my headspace, man. But yeah. But
And
yeah,
it's
man,
even
Woody Allen grew. He grew the galleon of people, you know.
yeah, that's mad.
He grew her, fed her, clothed her, and then took her. Come on, man. There's levels to this thing. But sorry, family. Go on through, man.
No, you good. You good. Yeah. I think it's important to show both sides of it. It's important to, you know, to show the sides that our community definitely is targeted. I don't think that
Exactly.
that's not, you know, that's not the case. You know, but I do think, you know, what Brother Witness said is that some of the things that the members of our community that they do um, that they do are, what I want to say, kind of swept under the rug because of maybe other instances where they were targeted, where we're targeted. So it's like, even though we might look bad here, huh?
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well, sis. That's definitely true too. I can give a couple of examples where, yeah, even in football,
I mean, we have cases where members of our community where they're caught red-handed, right? And we sweep it under the rug. So for me, you know, because I do think that our leaders do need to be protected, right? I think that I think it was our third show. We did a show on is it important the you know the way other communities see us, right? And I think we all came to the understanding that it is important. One, we should care how we look,
of course,
but we definitely have. It's important for us to have a good public perception, to give off a good public perception, right? The way we should present ourselves in a good way. So, yeah, I think that we should care if our leaders are looking this way, looking that way. This is going wrong. They're violating in this way. People are talking about them in this way. So how do we protect them from that kind of stuff? I think by my little, you know, my input is, you know, somebody in your community, somebody that you're following on social media, you see that they're doing good stuff. Somebody has good products. Somebody is a good speaker. Somebody throws good community or organizing events. Share. That person shouldn't be a hidden gem. They shouldn't. People should know about what it is that they're doing. Help them to grow. To me, that's one of the ways in which we can protect and support. So I'm trying to stay on thing because, you know, every time we're trying to make these shows better, right? So each time Melanated is trying to improve. So I'm trying to make sure that regardless of what we're talking about, I got my paper right here. We're talking about ways to support our leaders. For me, that's one of the ways to support our leaders.
So are you saying constructive criticism, or being basically being constructive in your criticism when it's required and valid is the way to support and help our leaders?
Am I saying what? Constructive criticism?
Yeah.
I don't think anything is wrong with constructive criticism. No. I don't think. Am I missing your point?
No, I'm just trying to understand your point.
I think this is something about promoting like their stuff in it, like when someone is doing something good, you know, pushing it as much as possible.
Right.
But when we say protect them, what do we mean? Are we talking about protecting their safety, protecting their bankroll? When we say protect them, what do we mean exactly?
When I said protect them, when I was talking more from an organizational point of view, and I mentioned legal department, a PR department, security department, a media department that deals with its newspaper and TV channel, and then we have a secret security department that deals with COINTELPRO snakes. But we also have to have within the organization a quota system where we have more women employed within the organization than men. Because I reckon if we had more women, I guarantee you the men who buck up, they wouldn't be messing around trying to get their leg over all the time or doing all kinds of crazy stuff, because that's just me.
Well said, Ultra. Well, and sorry, witness. Well said. And just to back that up, yeah, because we gotta be real, yeah. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna put Thatcher in there, you know. I am. I'm gonna piss off everyone. I'm gonna put Thatcher in there because don't get me wrong. At no point am I melanated. You've heard of Margaret Thatcher, have you?
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously she was the first female prime minister of Britain and so forth, yeah. And the only reason why I'm putting her in there is just to really, again, try to back up what Witness is saying, because as she was, and she, you know, as fucked up as she was, and she knows she was, you know, for the majority of her terms, and I'm hoping Witness will back me up on this, shit was quite tight. Would you say, Witness? Even if it was wrong, it was tight. Would you say? Like,
absolutely, but
under manners. Can I
definitely
say that?
Yes, definitely. But she was one of a kind. I don't support the Tories or Thatcher, but
no, not at all. Me and you both, Witness. No way are we. Listen, my house is red till it dead. You understand me? But for the purpose of this conversation and just bringing it around to what you were saying, you with me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And for what? Just under 3 terms, she was doing well. Obviously, in the last term, it got political for her. But yeah, man, just bringing it back to what Witness said, man, for real.
You definitely need powerful women there, a bigger quota, 60% women, 40% men, reining the men in, or you're gonna have all kinds of scandals breaking out. So that's what I believe.
Yeah, and she definitely held her cabinet together. Definitely. So yeah, man. But yeah. Big up, catch up. Blood cleat.
So see, like
milk.
there's other communities, these other media people, the ones that are attacking and the people that we need to protect, the leaders, yeah. Then should there be some kind of offensive that is discrediting other leaders and these kind of things?
That's why I mentioned you'd have a PR department, the public relations department. And within the public relations department, they would liaise with the legal department. And then I mentioned you would have a media department that deals with newspaper and the TV channel. So there they all have their propaganda, their style of creating propaganda, protecting the organization, protecting the leaders. If any smear tactics are used, then those departments would be able to protect against those kind of smear tactics.
We just gotta get with the program, Witness, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Gotta get with the program, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like, again, sorry to butt in, family, but I think one of the things that we suffer from is being overly righteous in the wrong places. You understand me? Yeah? And where we're not supposed to be righteous, you understand? So I hear that still, man, 100%, man. Because it just comes back to what I said, in it. We're too nice at the wrong time. For real. But sorry, family.
So I heard I heard Nine Ether bring up protecting them in their pockets, and that's an important point there, that in our community always ends up being a very soft, a very difficult subject matter. It seems like a lot of people in the community have issues financially supporting their leaders. That is needed. I think that, melanated just gone. I just having this day of offending people today, but hey, I hope that, you could just hear what I'm trying to say. The Black church is a very big organization, right? And it's a big organization because people have learned the
Who owns it?
Huh?
Who owns it?
It's a nonprofit organization that has a contract with the government, but they definitely have keep their finances. The pastor, I would say, the pastor would own the church. But what I'm saying is that the message is that the people, right? The people are okay and they see the purpose and the function in financially supporting their church. They give.
But that's the key point, though, sis. That's the key part.
But isn't it in the scripture, though, sis?
Wait, I can't hear. One at a time.
Sorry, B2. Is it not in the scripture, though, sis? For them to do so? Tides, I talk about.
Yeah, but they didn't, God didn't write the Bible. God didn't write it, the scripture. A person did.
Yeah.
So a person wrote it with the understanding of to get the people's finances. Maybe at one time it was getting a cow, or it was getting a sheep, or it was getting some apples and oranges. But in today's time, it's getting that 10%. And that's just the tithes. You need to come tithes and offerings. Sometimes you pay your tithes and you pay your offerings. That's even more.
Boy,
right?
Boy, you're going to a whole new chapter.
So what I'm saying, because I'm not telling nobody, don't pay your tithes, don't pay your offerings. All I'm saying is that whether you got tithes, offerings, whatever it's called in other belief systems, right? Other belief systems have their ways of donating financially. Do not forget that you're part of a community, right? And you can give to that community, give to those leaders, support the businesses in those within your community. Just what I'm saying is that don't come to the community wanting things for free, wanting to go to free events, wanting to get free books, wanting to go to free lectures. Don't, come on. That's all I'm saying is that the community needs money too, right? The venue costs money, the chairs cost money, the food costs money. The same way that it did in the church, it costs money in your community. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even getting on nobody's toes saying don't give to your God. Give to your God if you want to give to your God.
I agree with you, sis. But I think what I was saying is in like the church example, yeah, and I think this is the key point. It's like the followers of that church, they see the value in that establishment. They see it as a place to connect with. Obviously, yeah, they see the value in the religion. They see the value in that. Therefore, they see the function and the value that it pays to contribute to that. And I think with our leaders and the people in our community, we don't necessarily make that connection. We don't necessarily see the value and how, in order to sustain that value, it needs sustenance. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, big up to everyone on the panel and everyone on the show, everyone in the chat. And I just want to jump in there. To hello, witness. What's going on, my brother? How you doing, man? Don't feel good. I just wanted to come in and actually kind of second what BT was saying there to some extent. I think when it comes to the religious component, I think that's the key thing that is lacking when it comes to community, is that a lot of these religions, they're organized around something, around a center, around belief first of all, yeah, but then around the center, and then they create a community from that. So there's church communities, there's Black Muslim communities, and so on, and they're centered around their faith and so on. And so it's not necessarily so much about backing a leader or leadership. It's about backing an institution which continuously exists. It supports you in your times of need, and you support it. And I think, therefore, if we want to ask for that kind of thing from the community, we have to create that kind of an institution. Maybe not with the religious beliefs, but obviously, I push Pan-Africanism quite hardcore, because I think that is the thing that we need to really rally around and gather around on a non-religious basis. in order to unify Black people, because we come from so many different varied backgrounds, religious and non-religious at all. But I also think in this question about how can we best protect and support our leaders, I think it's not necessarily so much about, well, first of all, the question would be for me, and I know I'm going a little bit late, so I'm not going to make everyone rehash or whatever, but who are the leaders that we're talking about, etc. So if it is sports people and entertainers, there's only so much to some extent we could support them. If it's MPs and so on, there's only so much to the extent we could support them. If it's like a Martin Luther King, Malcolm X sort of character, then again, there's only so much you could support them. So I think it's quite limited to or protect them from. There's only so much you can protect them or support them from outside danger. So I think it's quite dangerous to focus too much on the individual, although you do want to protect the individual. I think what's most important is kind of like what they do in regards to America, in regards to the augustness of the office of the president. It's not really about who the president is, but you better respect the office. And I think we need to create that kind of a situation when it comes to protecting our leaders. It's not about who the leader is per se at the time. I mean, obviously you do want a good leader, but mostly importantly is the office. The office is going to outlive the leader and it's going to carry on forever. And so it's the office that we need to really protect and support more than anything else. And sometimes protecting the office can mean protecting it against a bad leader who might be occupying the office at the time. So I think, yeah, if you put that first and put those concepts and those ideas that support that leader, the ideology and the foundation behind sort of a constitution behind the organization or whatever it is, then that in itself, I think, leads to the necessary protection and support for that kind of a leader. But yeah, like I say, from different leaders in different times, you'll need different types of supports or protection. Of course, you know, like for example, Nation of Islam, it's difficult to see how much the institution of the leader is respected because we've only had two leaders thus far that I know, Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad, right? But they also have other sort of institutions that protect the office. Like I know they have the Fruit of Islam and so on, where they have a more militaristic presence. So there's a defense for them. So there's different ways of organizing and doing stuff. But I think the institution of the office, or the office of the institution needs to be the most important thing to protect rather than a particular leader. But yeah, that's it, one.
I agree still. And I think as far as the institution, I think maybe perhaps like we've had a couple media institutions in the past. I think a strong educational institution at this present time, if I could only choose one, I think would have major impacts. Like similar to what Brother Terry, I think you just joined the call, big up Brother Terry, similar to what they do at the Manwood Academy. Greeting education.
Yeah, big up.
What's up?
Yeah, big up. Yeah, I like what you had to add, Brother Scattered, and I agree that when you have, you know, an organization, you know, then you know the part when you talked about having an organization and kind of respecting that office, and I want to know what's your position for like I guess a community leader that's not like tied to a particular organization. Then or let's say they're tied to an organization, but the external members may not be part, the external community members may not be part of that organization, but they have interaction with that organization. You know, what would that look like? What would leadership look like, and what would protection of that leader look like?
I guess it would very much depend on the threats that the leader's facing. If that leader is facing actual physical threats and so on, I guess it will be, you know, more security-based protection and stuff like that. But if it is, you know, more, it's this person's a political campaigner, it's about making sure you're, you know, backing up what they're saying, if you agree with what they're saying, making sure you're not contradicting them, making sure you're watching out for, I guess, media tactics and tricks to try and trip them up. And not be used as a tool against them because they love to try and, you know, wheel out two black people on television to debate against each other kind of situation. So I'd say that's the best way to try and support that kind of a community leader if you're not, you know, there day to day in the organization with them, and to try and support them from a distance, I suppose. just make it clear that they have that support, and just follow them and see what they're doing. And if you support what they're doing, you know, and they say ask for a particular request, back in that mostly. But I think also one way of supporting leaders is actually, you know, making it very clear on what you support them on. I support this particular leader from this particular community organization or whatever on this thing because what they're saying I agree with and I do it right. I don't necessarily know this particular leader. I'm not putting my whole eggs in this basket and supporting them on his morality or his judgment on how he treats his wife or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe for all I know, in his spare time, he does open relationship. He has an open relationship, and his wife. I don't know in it, but that's not what I care about. What I care, and I think if you remove some of those expectations, and we say this leader is just here to do this particular job, I think it takes away the ability for people to try and find other ways to undermine leaders. But you know, that's just.
And that's what I was saying earlier, separating the two, like their personal life from their day job, effectively.
Yeah.
The leadership
100.
But obviously, that's got an extent in it. There's an action.
For sure.
That follows you to work.
That's it.
Do you think, with our leaders, these days, we're forcing them to have to be entrepreneurs as well?
In which way?
I don't think we have leaders like that. But what do you mean?
Because it's like, you know, people are starting off by themselves. They might have like vision or something, but now they got to support that vision. So, you know,
because we don't have the institutions. We don't have the institutions for them to go in. Like, so if you look at people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they came up and became leaders through institutions, through the church or through the Nation of Islam. Whereas now, where would these leaders come through?
But don't you feel that it's mostly because nowadays it's more of the organization doing the talking than the actual person? Where Malcolm X or Martin Luther King did not really have an institution around them.
What did you say, sir?
What do you mean?
Meaning, what I was saying is that even though we see Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, they were individuals leading the community. Where today we have more of the organizations leading with a speaker as a leader.
Like which organizations?
Like this, look at Nation of Islam. Even though Farrakhan is a leader, it's not making the maneuvers of even in the forms of entrepreneur. It's in-house. It's people making the moves in-house, which is Nation of Islam. So Nation of Islam is doing the power moves where Farrakhan is doing the talking.
Yeah.
So what are you?
So you say that what?
Problem,
so when he's talking about economics, most of the organizations are doing economics within the house, where sometimes you may not able to see the economic systems that they have because it's the individuals within the house that are doing it. But the person that is actually speaking, is he doing economics? He may not. He may just speak. And they just fund him whatever he needs to do.
Which could best beg the question, who are really in charge of these organizations?
Exactly. Because even like if you look in the forms of the government, we know that, okay, the person is coming to talk, but then when it comes to sitting down on the table of the organization, who is doing the talking and who's doing the movements?
But so wait, for me to to go back to E's question, are we putting the pressure on our leaders to be entrepreneurial? Is that the question?
Yeah, and what I'm saying is the leaders don't have to be entrepreneurial because the organizations that they're in is entrepreneurial.
I think there is a pressure to be entrepreneurial, but I don't think it's necessarily from the members of the community. I think that's just sort of the nature of being in this competitive climate.
Yeah, because when you hear Farrakhan, he would say, I've got people that are doing farming, I've got people that are doing the newspapers, I've got people doing this, and I've got people doing that. But for him himself, I don't feel he has any forms of establishment except for working for Nation of Islam.
But what about other leaders? Like,
but it could be argued that that's how it should be.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say to you. That's what's happening now.
Yeah, he should be expected to lead and go out and make money and
Yeah, where like people like Malcolm X and all that were working for themselves.
Yeah, I hope
but
still,
and
yeah.
they were an individual.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't.
Okay, so basically what you guys are saying, yeah, is like sort of in exchange for the leadership, should certain leaders, should their living costs be financed by the community?
Yeah, if they're the speakers, they get their speaking costs.
Which is just like the government, really, if you think about it.
But that's how it should be, really. The community should have
But
control.
you see, for that to be able to like finance that,
there needs to be.
You've got to have either some sort of tax or membership fee. Or,
That's it.
Yeah, and this is where you bring an economical system towards it, which can able to fund the organization into doing what it needs to do. Like
that's why I mentioned you at the beginning. We have a media department, newspaper, TV channel. People connect to that to watch.
Yeah.
You have to have some form of economical system to be funding. It's just the same thing as when you get people going in for elections.
Which Obama had to be fair.
Some form of money for their budget.
Yeah.
So
because Obama revolutionized that in a way still. In terms of his election campaign, in terms of raising money and that. So that is a good point still.
And you can always have in the summer barbecues.
You could do whatever you like to raise.
Nobody love a barbecue.
But then the question, so let me ask a question then, before I get bunged up again, yeah? Is our problem one of financing a leader or one of finding a suitable leader to finance?
It's a matter of setting up the institution and the organization.
The organization. It's about the organization, and then the person that is speaking for the thing receives his money from the organization.
Right. So thus far, what we're saying is that we have no reputable. I mean, obviously, I don't know, because we're speaking in Britain. Obviously, in America, it may be different. I'm not sure, but I mean,
no, it was a case of we can find the leaders. It was a case of how do we protect them, and that was why the various
were mentioned
in the beginning. And that's what Terry's saying.
Yeah. So then you have the organization by even in funding in forms of security for when he's going to speak.
Yeah, for real.
Like I was thinking that there's loads of potential leaders that are like busy working full-time jobs, and
they're busy working full-time jobs. Then how are they going to able to control or able to help the people in the community if they're doing a full-time job?
That's the problem. That's what he's. That's why he's bringing it up.
So it wouldn't be. The actual organization were able to fund the person or the leader to do his work and able to pay him.
So that's why he's bringing it up.
But then that means that the thing with that is that. Sorry.
I was saying, I think we need the organizations to be doing this. This is one of the part of the protection of the leaders, and also not making people have to like wear every hat, and the leader having to juggle other things.
It's like if you look at it in the perspective of in the UK, most politicians work for most companies in the fact that they fund them for everything that they do. The Labour Party doesn't just grab money out of the air. They have to get money from somewhere. The Conservative Party have to do the same thing. So where do they get that money from? So you got to look at what kind of organisation.
Labour Party gets it from.
And this is why the capitalists can able to thrive in it, because the reason is that they're funding them to doing what they need to do. Same thing like Khan. Khan gets funded by his own community by the reasons why he is to get how he gets things through. See, so most of it you have to find some form of way of helping or pushing that leader forward, and at the same time protecting him.
And at the same time, I think what we may be lacking, sorry to cut in, is that we, just to add to it, is that I think we need to actually cultivate leaders. You with me? And I'm not sure if we're really on our game in terms of the actual cultivation of leaders. Because really, you're supposed to have a pot of leaders. You know what I mean? Like you're cultivating for morning, whereby
But that's what the organization will do.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you have a board of directors, you have people that come together on the table and they say, this is how we're going to do it, and this is how it is. And we say to the speaker, this is what we need you to do.
Yeah, not just some ad hoc. Yeah, you got to identify him and train him up in it. Because all these leaders of both, you know, Labour and Conservative, and even in America, I'm sure, they've all been, even Obama, as much as it seems like he may have been plucked from obscurity, that was not the case.
His organization is the Democrats. So
yeah, he had been trained for mourning before he was even you know, thingy for Chicago or whatever. So we can't take it for granted. But sorry, Bab, go on.
No, I was just saying in its perspective. If you look at it, it's not everything he can have go through. He has to talk to his board in the Democrats before he can even push anything through. And when they've all agreed, then they'll say, okay, we're going to go with that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there is many lines that we have to pass through before he can actually get something through.
Yeah, strategy.
Yeah.
We just got to start playing their game. To be fair.
Yeah, like it's just having a think. You have to have a think tank within the organization.
Yeah, like we just got to up our game, innit?
Mm-hmm.
To be fair,
so
and if
what
we
do you
take
think our response?
as an example, sorry, babe.
Yeah, sorry, sis. And what do you not think our responsibilities are to our leaders, and them theirs to us? If any.
Well, ours is to back them, obviously.
And question them.
Yeah.
But once they're on that same page, they're obliged to doing what they have to do. You know, they can't just wander off and say they're going to do what they want to do. It has to be anonymous before they even do anything. So it's not even just about questioning; it's a bit more.
What are the requisites of a leader? Because I don't know if you know, but the Conservative candidate for the next mayoral election is a young black guy.
And there's a woman.
Yeah, I told you about Sean Bailey. I don't like him. But yeah.
There's a woman contesting with him as well. A black woman.
Huh?
There's a black woman as well contesting for it.
And who's she running for?
Conservative. Okay.
What, 2 conservative black people?
No, I thought that's what you were saying, but no, it doesn't sound like it.
No, Sean Bailey's definitely conservative because he's from Kennington area. Like
I think there is a black woman for Labour. I'm not too sure.
Oh, she's from Labour.
Is he from Kennington? Yeah. Oh, he works in Grove.
Yeah, he works in Grove.
Okay.
Well, he used to back in the day.
I believe he's from Kennington. Don't take me as 100 on that, but I believe that's his area. So okay then.
Your question was what is our responsibility to the leaders? Mm-hmm. I would think one of our responsibilities would be to inform them of our position, you know, to make sure that they understand where we stand on certain issues, you know, to be active if they are.
Who's we?
The people.
And who's the people? Just generally, like the general population of the area.
Well, I mean, we on Constructive Convos, so we always keeping it conversation black. You know what I'm saying? With the conversation is on the community.
No,
you know?
Of course.
So we're speaking about our leaders and making sure that they represent us, that we're on the same page, that they understand the needs, you know, because the needs can change from place to place, different geographical location and X, Y, and Z, like for them to be, you know, informed on the pulse of the people, what's going on, right? That way they can advocate on our behalf. So I think that's our responsibility.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to sound effed up, sis, but I think this is such an interesting topic, right? Because obviously we're on opposing sides of a sea and whatnot. And when you say you're saying to give them our view, right? And that's why I kind of asked them who is us. And I'm kind of asking that just to see if there's a similarity in difference, or what it potentially could be, I should say. Because in America, yeah, when you're saying our, yeah, you're talking about black people then, right?
But you know, we kind of got to see what is that leader doing? What position is that leader in?
But this is what I'm trying to
is he just talking for the community?
That's what I'm trying to get to, Brother Terry.
Or is it
That's
political?
Exactly, yeah.
Or is it moving out?
Yeah, I mean, this is the exact. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to get to. Still, because I just think we have to be very careful. Cause you could cite a person and believe that that person is on the same thing that you're on, and you may be brokenhearted to find out that it's a gossip. You get me? So that's really what I was trying to. So even
I mean, that's a possibility, but I was just trying to answer the question as far as
our leaders,
what are we responsible? You know, how are we responsible to them? You know, because they have a way. The question was two-sided, right, Brother E? What was the question? The question was, what responsibility do our leaders have to us and us to them? So our responsibility to them would be to keep them informed and express where we stand on certain issues. But they have responsibilities to us too. They have the responsibility to take action. They have responsibility to listen, to consider, you know, to use good judgment, to I guess to communicate with the people and not keep us in the dark. You know what I'm saying? They have a responsibility to us too. But when I was saying the other stuff, that was me articulating what our responsibility would be to them.
No, I hear that still. Sorry. Yeah, I hear that. Sorry.
Yeah, like, because see on the responsibility thing, in Simon Sinek, when he's talking about white leaders eat last, he talks about lions, right? And like the alpha male or whatever gets to eat first and the biggest portion. But the reason why they give these allowances is because when an enemy lion or something comes around, they expect that alpha to step up and be the one that's going to defend them. So like, you know, they have an expectation with that you're eating the most, you should be the strongest and you should be doing this. So within our relationship with our leaders, what is it that we expecting from them to do for us and what should we be doing for them, basically?
I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult to transfer that analogy into the relationship between our leaders and the people that those leaders represent, only as far as like a quantifiable this much more sort of kind of comparison. I think that's difficult. But I think for the relationship to be a healthy one, I think it's like Melanie said, it needs to be a two-way thing. There are responsibilities of them. A couple responsibilities of them, of a leader, I would expect, is transparency. I mean, all the cliche sort of things, good judgment, a holistic view. But as far as the people that are being led, expectations for them towards the leader, loyalty. Obviously, that's a huge commodity in that sort of relationship.
Can we give any examples of what we're describing? Can we give any living or dead examples of these persons? Just so that like what we're describing in terms of, you know, what we think they should be. Can we give any, you know, examples of, you know, whether they're dead or alive, but just...
Yeah, there is an example. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Witness.
I think there's examples in like, you know, different areas, and I don't think there's many that are like the complete article, but yeah, like, you've got like X and, you know, Martin Luther, you got Nkrumah, loads of people throughout the years that have
We
done.
got Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara. Yeah, he's
Stephen
good.
Biko.
Yeah, Stephen Biko, yeah.
Like, so yeah, there's been loads of leaders in it that we could have, well, protected in it.
But that's where, as I said, like it depends on what type of leader we are we protecting. Are we protecting a leader that's going to be a president, or are we protecting a leader that is going to move the black nation? Because there's different things.
That's a good point, man.
You don't think they all need to be protected?
Huh? They're all to be protected, but then what if it becomes political? Then it's very difficult.
Wait, hold on a minute. I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, Scattered Minds was saying something about we're relying too heavily on an individual or a leader.
Yeah.
I remember him saying that. So this leader thing, we should look at it more as a collective, like the organization. The organization provides the leader.
Then it's a few people within one house, and that means it's protecting the community in general.
I definitely agree with that, and also that helps to promote longevity because there's not so much onus on one person. It's not as simply as just cutting off the head of the.
Yeah, I kind of, if that's what Scattered Mind says, I'm definitely on that page right there. That I think that history has shown us that when an individual black man stands up and is set apart and is on a pedestal, and that person becomes our leader,
that's right.
that in itself becomes a target.
That's
right. So we can't keep repeating that. We just can't keep repeating that. We can't.
And that's why I said is that where you make the organization the leader and you have a speaker, so that even if they try to wipe that speaker, there's another speaker to replace him.
That's right.
Absolutely. Right. So then a lot of the strategies that we came up with, I wanted to just summarize some of them. I was writing down while we were talking. We were talking about protect, and this is, the strategies or the areas that we came up with is more so on how to protect or support, right? So we can use this for an individual leader or an organization that's in a leadership position. We can physically protect them. Witness said public relations, right? He said like a legal team. That would encompass protecting their legacy and their image, right? And then we've already seen a big need for protecting in the image department, right? So also positive publicity, right? That's something that I suggested as far as sharing positive imagery, notifications of events and so forth that are going on within the community, right? And what else? Financially supporting. It was another issue that we talked about. Not spreading gossip was another area that we talked about. Not spreading some of this negative press. We don't need help tearing it down. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to give positive press because you don't support a particular thing. You don't have to spread the negative press. And then also joining and supporting organizations. We have to kind of get back to that because the people in the past generations, they definitely did that. And I think that that's something that's missing. People in the chat, anyone who's watching this show later on, are you part of any Black or African-centered organizations? If so, that's what's up. Kudos to you. And if not, we all need to, we could reflect and kind of identify and pick an organization that we want to get behind and we want to support because, it's cool to be on YouTube, but we got to be out there doing the work, joining something, putting our, what did you say? Putting the pedal to the metal, I guess, towards Black betterment, and kind of getting more involved. So, you know, that's kind of what the list that I came up with. Is there anything else that the family in the chat want to highlight on how to support, how to protect the organizations and the individuals that we deem as leaders? And I'll throw that out there to the chat again. I mean, to the panel, just to see if there's something that I left out.
I think it's just like all the things you listed, and it's like what Scattered said. I think we need to go through this type of process where it's meaningful, it's directed, and where we're trying to identify exactly what the threat is and an appropriate countermeasure to try to mitigate the risk of that threat becoming an actual thing. I think we just need to be going through that process, working out where the vulnerabilities are. Like you said, vulnerabilities in it being a single individual leader, vulnerabilities in using certain scandals or accusations to defamate the character. We need to understand these vulnerabilities and put countermeasures in place so we can manage them with the best outcomes for the community. I think when we talk about leadership, it's like there's the obvious individual that speaks and does everything at the front and they become the recognizable face. But like most of us have already sort of realized throughout this conversation, there is a sort of leadership quality that is required from the wider group, the constituents. There needs to be a leadership within that. And I think there's people power is really what's going to significantly change the position of our community, I think. So I swear.
I think as well, we need departments and institutions
definitely
in this perspective, so we know, so people don't crosswire, so that they're able to protect it. So where you have your security, you have your school, you have your health, and you have your education and things like that. So
the infrastructure
into building that leader.
Yeah, I see it as scaffolding, that infrastructure that goes around and supports and maintains. So even if a compartment of that is attacked, theoretically the overall structure should still be relatively unaffected. You know what I mean? But they're all interdependent and interlock, and you can transfer assets and springboards.
And this is where you get the leaders of the institutions come together as the board of directors.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me? So since we're speaking about institutions, Brother Terry, take this moment to talk about the institution that you have, because everyone is not aware of what it is that you're doing in the community. And this is an organization that you can support. This is an organization that you can support with your time and with your money. And then you can also spread the information as well and give positive publicity. So you can not only be, you can do some application. You can take what you heard today and put it to some use. So go ahead, Brother Terry.
It's just basic on the formalities that I have an institution which is called the New Beginning, which it's able to work as a form of a networking and as a diplomatic way of working with other organizations by what I say is unification without association, meaning that I can link up most organizations together without the two organizations linking up. So looking at their perspectives, so looking at the good and great things that they do, and able to take in their attributes and able to build upon that. In saying that, I can give you a formalities of like what I do with the Manhood Academy. The Manhood Academy is an organization which I'm able to look into it and say that, okay, this is where we can start with the youth and make our way up. So by using the Manhood Academy, I'm able to get in people that like authors, getting authors to contribute to like Black History activity books, which is the joint adventure to able to creating books for the youth. And then at the same time, I'm getting the Black History activity books to able to join up with people like Queen Afua and the Queen of Republic of Congo, which are travelers, and they are working within the community. So which happens to be that they're making 2 books from the activity books and able to creating some form of information in an institution which can help to build the Manhood Academy. Now, the Manhood Academy, the future tenses is to have an academy in nearly every other place within the African diaspora. Once we accomplish that, then we can able to do a form of student exchange with the youth, which will mean youth academies in America, Europe, Africa, and whatsoever. They can all network. And then once a year, there will be a form of a rites of passage, which would able to go, all of us were able to go to Africa, which will able to bring a formalities of unity or unification, because now you're getting all the youth getting to know each other and working with each other and looking at it as that you're only as weak as the weakest link. Once they have that bondage, then we're able to maneuver from that in that perspective. So in what my organization does is able to pull in people together.
That's dope. That's dope. People support, organizations like that are working to kind of build up the youth, focus on the youth. That's our future right there. So if you can share the social media links for the for the Manhood Academy. I don't know, my mind went blank for a second.
Okay, for the Manhood Academy, just go to Manhood Academy West on the Instagram, Facebook.
Wait, hold on a minute. I've been sharing the Manhood Academy link on Constructive Convos since day dot. So you just check in the chat, it should be there.
Yeah. No, I was
check up the link, but because there is a difference. We have the normal Manhood Academy and we have the Manhood Academy West, which is going international. So the one I work with is Manhood Academy West.
Yes, that's nice.
Yeah.
So make sure you check all of the Manhood Academy social medias and make sure you share those, right? And I'm sure that there's a way for you to financially support.
And not only that,
if you're really about that life, contact Brother Terry and see how you could participate. How you can come and speak to the youth, how you can put your hands to some work. That's how these organizations get big. Everybody talks about the Nation of Islam, but they was deep out there for Nipsey Hussle's funeral, looking sharp and showing some discipline. But it takes the people to do the work, So that's what it's all. That's showing the support to the leadership. They were there showing support to their bigger leadership, and we could do the same thing.
And don't forget, there is Womanhood Academy as well.
Yes, Womanhood Academy. So there's an academy to help the young ladies, and they have a rites of passage into womanhood, and that's a beautiful thing, because we all know that our youth definitely need some love and some support, ushering them into that phase in life. And one of the dopest things, part of his program, is that while the youth are getting taught this material, guess what? Their parents get information as well. Their parents get support. Their parents are taught the different things that their kids are getting so that they can support and reinforce those things at home. So, I'm about to say boys and girls, I think I'm at work. Ladies and gentlemen, my people, my family, this is a really good program to kind of get behind and support. And you know, who knows, you may be supporting an organization that's going to be, that beginning foundation to our leaders of tomorrow, so yeah, yeah.
And don't forget, yeah, as well as that is the organization New Beginnings. Anybody can join it because New Beginnings is the community itself.
Hmm.
Yeah, I suppose, that's another thing we didn't really discuss about young leaders and like, protecting, at one stage, I suppose their innocence and then, you know, protecting them along their journey as well. Because yeah, that's a lot.
And this is the kind of thing that, as I said, once we're able to establish Manhood Academy and Womanhood Academy, we can put these up and coming youth that are potential leaders through the rites of passage, so we can able to know who they are and able to protect them at all times.
Yeah, definitely. Like in being able to have that, like identifying with them and I suppose by their being able to mix with other young leaders also it's gonna spark a lot of ideas and energy within them and stuff like that.
Yeah, especially if they get to see people from other countries as well. So it opens their mind, not just being in one postcode, but being international.
Yeah, and I suppose that's like, the financial part as well. It's like, say now with our young up and coming leaders from the community, like if they have to then grow up and get jobs outside of the community, um, yeah, sometimes not being treated fairly because of the community they come from. Yeah, that's quite
And we have to
not
start.
traumatic, but it's something,
Yeah,
it's
where
deep.
we have to set a foundation, and if we don't start a foundation now, how is that seed gonna grow?
Exactly. That's true. So it's kind of like attacking the issue from both sides. You attack the issue from raising up and instilling the characteristics and the attributes that you would want in a good leader, the character that you would want in a good leader, from programs like the Manhood Academy, as well as supporting the leaders that we currently have, supporting and protecting the image and and I guess the legacy that the organization itself is building, and just realizing how all of these things impact the perception that our community at large have. And I think that, you know, I have to remind myself of that as well. There are times in which I may say certain things about leaders in private, right? But in public, I'm not going to tear them down. I may not promote them. I may not, if I know that there's something that's degrading that they are involved in or so forth, I may not promote them, but I'm not going to tear them down because our community already has enough of that. And we just need more and more people to kind of, how, especially where me being involved with like the UK community, they say a lot, stay on code, and I'm just like, well, is this a black code? Is it written somewhere? Like when I first started, talking to you guys, I was like, well, where is this code? But it's more like it's a code of like, what you're not supposed to say, what you're not supposed to let company know. You know what I'm saying? Like that unspoken code. And I think that we need to, as a community, we need to be on code more, and it's not so much like everything that's black is right. Like we just gonna just blindly follow everyone. But sometimes silence is gold too. Because let me tell you, people of that other community sat there watching Woody Allen with his new bride, and they didn't say a damn thing. They didn't openly shame that man. When what's his name? What's that guy's name that comes out? He goes in and out of rehab, and then he comes out and he gets a new movie. Um, Tony Sparks. What's the guy name from Iron Man? What's his name?
Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
What about that Charlie Sheen guy?
Charlie Sheen too.
I saw he like had HIV or something and had sex with people knowingly and all of that kind of stuff.
Right, and he comes out of rehab. Hey, you're Iron Man. Really? You're a freaking superhero? Wow. You see what I'm saying? Like, we don't do that in our community. I'm not saying we make them be a superhero. Me personally, I'm
Yeah,
not saying that.
and
But
that's your creativity. As in the Yoruba language and the Yoruba traditions, we will call him Ogun, and that means that you are the creative person within yourself. So by you creating whatever you're good at, is able to build on what you need to do.
right. Well, listen. Whatever the person's strength is, or their talent and so forth. If it were me personally, Melanated Goddess, I would use their talents to in the background, after they have had a setback to that capacity, right? Number one, because I don't know if they're going to have another setback, right? So I'd allow them to really have a full recovery. But see how they don't openly, parade all of their flaws to all other communities, to other groups. That they handle that stuff in-house. That's kind of I'm stating that to say I think we should adopt that practice. That regardless of how we feel about R. Kelly, we can deal with that in-house. Whether regardless of how we feel about Martin Luther King now, we can handle that in-house. Yeah.
Yeah, like I definitely agree with all of the in-house, and there's no point, because we're just talking to people about this stuff, but it's not going to change. It's not to change anything in it. It's just to conversate bad about somebody, and I just don't think it's beneficial, especially for us because we're easily grouped and stereotyped. So it's like people start seeing people from our community on TV for something bad, and then somehow that equates to all of us. So I definitely don't think it's beneficial for us to be having much conversation about these things to people outside of the community. And also, even within the community, like in a non-constructive way. Like I think we need to discuss these things in a solutionary way and how to prevent and how can we make changes.
Right. Well, uh-huh.
On the supporting leaders, though, I was starting to think about children and like at what age, do we start identifying leaders and start trying to, like Sister Nines was saying earlier, cultivate them.
I was gonna say on that cultivation part, I think like we should be the ideal situation is that all members of the community are going into parenthood with a view of raising leaders. So from day one, you should see the leadership in your child, or at least that's what you're trying to encourage and facilitate.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a certain age where it's like trigger point. I think it should be that from go.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that's definitely another way that we can support them. I suppose seeing them in that kind of light from early, and also giving them the skills, because at a young age they're unable to acquire skills without our help in it. So yeah, like putting them in a position to be leaders and to speak up and to network and to engage in the activities that they're gonna be engaging in as a leader. So basically to get more experience and practice and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree still.
Sounds good. family, if you like the conversation, make sure you definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification button. That's the important button right there so that you can be there and be square when Constructive Convos goes live. Yes.
I got a question. Sorry,
Sure.
this just off the back of what he was saying. Yeah. What does the panel in the chat think? Is there an attack on our young leaders and their leadership qualities, either through school or other institutions?
Oh, is there an attack on our young leaders?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so the children exhibiting the leadership traits from young.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think so.
Let me put something on. Let me put a twist on that. But do you feel that the education is for our youth? Full stop.
Well, I would say that it's not a horrible idea for our youth to participate in the educational system, because at the end of the day, they are competing with those people, right? So it gives them insight as to what their education is, what their knowledge is, and so forth. But one of the reasons why I said absolutely is because some of the qualities that were mentioned are not necessarily encouraged or favored in the education setting, especially during their early ages. And I think school tries to, like traditional school, tries to tailor how that stuff is expressed. So you have a very outspoken youth that is a critical thinker. They think outside the box. They're trying to solve problems that the teacher didn't identify is a problem. All of those things are going to be considered disruptive and defiant, and they're distracted and all of these other words.
But wouldn't you say that in that perspective, if they're destructive in another school, but then in our community we see them as potential leaders, it's to still coerce them or teach them what they need to know in the perspective of being a leader within the community that has nothing to do with the outside system?
Oh, I wasn't saying to speak against African-centered schools or anything like that. I'm just saying that
they learn. What I'm saying is that they can learn from the institutions. But what I'm saying is, when the institution is going against the child, is that we could still take its capabilities of the child and still push it into the form out of what we know of that child's skills and push the child forward into it before the child starts to lose faith in any form of institution.
Yeah, that's definitely an option, Brother Terry. I'm just saying that, I think it can go either way. I think that a child could, can thrive in, depending on the child, depending on the home and so forth, that you can have the opposite outcome. That's all.
I think the thing is, in today's age and the type of schools that are accessible to our community by the majority, it's like it's more than just school. Like, school is not just education. It's more than that. At school, they learn about their relationship with authority. They learn about self-image. They learn about aspiration and how to manage challenges. Do you know what I mean? So there's so much that they learn at school. And I just wonder if maybe some of the stereotypes that a lot of the young teachers, or maybe not even young, old, just teachers in general, may come into teaching with, also bearing in mind that, I can only talk from the perspective of the area I live in. I live in London, so a lot of the teachers, I know that a lot of the teachers in London schools are teachers that have been educated outside of London. They grew up outside of London in more village sort of set up, smaller communities, not seeing so much of a diverse pool of people. And so they've got strong stereotypes that are poorly informed. And those are the kind of people who are coming into teaching, and they're not necessarily well equipped to deal with some of the intricacies of the issues that are relevant to our young people, especially our leaders. So sometimes where they're categorizing or miscategorizing certain behaviors or traits as dysfunctional, and actually that is a child sort of collaborating their leadership skill sets, flexing their leadership muscle. Do you know what I'm saying? And maybe that's not being harnessed in the most effective way. But maybe it's down to us as parents and as a community to subsidize that education with other things like the Manhood Academy or Saturday schools, or having those conversations at home to let them know that.
Working aside with them in that perspective. And if they do, let's say, for instance, the school can't handle the child, then it should be our responsibility to take on that child, to build in the child's attributes to where it should be in the first place.
But you see, when you say our responsibility, primarily, obviously, sorry, sis, primarily that would be the family. Ultimately, like that's what it comes down to. Because as a community, the reality is we don't have those institutions set up where we can look into. I mean, we do in small pockets and working in isolation, but not in a very representative way. It's not sufficient. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, sis, I cut into something you was gonna say.
No, that's good. You good.
And then that's where, as we was talk, like, where we need to able to have some form of economical system to build these institutions, so we have something to fall back on.
Yeah, we working with it. We getting there, man.
But yeah, that's definitely why, we do need to be a lot more entrepreneurial. And that's the thing with the leaders, right? Because what I was saying, because of the institutions not so much being in place, it's like it needs to be built. And a leader can't wait for it to be built if they're already trying to move forward, right? So it's like they have to try and build it on the way. And to build it, they need money.
But we have to start from somewhere, and we have to start planting seeds in certain places. So,
and the rate at which that can grow could be exponential if like people power, the numbers. Do you know what I mean? It's like a snowball effect. Once we all sort of unify or come together with supporting a cause, like we see it, like we live in that viral age where things come on, just GoFundMe and just hit a couple million in a night, in a couple hours. It is possible with people power, and we're not deficient in numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Even spending power, really.
Just that coordination. Or even spending power. It's just that lack of coordination and that misplaced energy, as it was even referred to in one of our previous conversations.
Yeah.
When we was talking about the economics.
I suppose it's the habits as well, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose some of it is personal, right? As well, like not disconnecting how we personally feel about people to the works that needs to be done. It's like, unless that's like they're saying everything that you like, then you don't want to support them, kind of thing. But yeah, definitely we need to change our habits as a community in terms of
and
supporting.
I think there's a huge demand for it. I think there's a huge demand for it. The community, on many instances, have demonstrated a recognition that A, there's a need for it, and B, if that just so happened, if there was that Wakanda sort of institution, then I'd be all for it, I'll support it. There's a demand for it, do you know what I mean? But it's just about that initial heavy lifting to coordinate it. Like I say, there's a lot of little people, there's a lot of groups or individuals doing things in isolation, in pockets, or relative isolation. And I just think if that's more coordinated and more visible, then that would increase the opportunities for our wider our community to sort of tap into that. Do you know what I mean? That's another thing. That's another way we need to look at it, as trying to constantly increase opportunities. We need to address the representation that isn't working in our favor, change that, and increase the opportunities for people to, oh, I'll find out about vegan food, or do you know what I mean? That's because that was an opportunity slip that someone said, yeah, I'll accept that invitation to learn something new and maybe try to change my life and do better.
Huh? Somebody say something about vegan food? What?
Or the African yoga.
You said what?
Or Shakara's African yoga.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right.
So, but yeah, man, definitely need to be opening up the minds of the youth. It's like, yeah, like the protection as well. Like in schools, it's like while they're at schools, they're not very well protected.
Mm.
You know, especially at a young age. You know, it's like, and that's where like me, I'm more of a diligent person where I'll be like, say if something's not real, like I would tell my children like multiple times just because I know they're gonna hear that it is real loads of times. Do you get what I'm saying? So like, say it's Christmas time, quote unquote, and like, you know, Christmas is going on everywhere. I'll be like, Christmas is not real. Christmas is not real. Christmas is not real. Like,
Christmas is not real.
you know, the ones there. It's like you can have presents, but don't start talking about Christmas like it's real, or else that will, you know, switch up the whole situation that we have in right now. There will be no fireworks.
But yeah, man, I just want to reiterate that
So,
you know, from what we said before, is I just think that it's really important that we, you know, we don't just try to send out one leader, you know, that what we should all be trying to make sure that all those of you know what I mean, especially the young ones coming up or whatever, but that we're building them to be, you know what I mean, to be, you know, all leaders. And even just to give gang a little shout out still, because one thing about gang that they said there was no leader in the circle. And I think that's a really important sentiment to continue, because we know from past history that it seems like once they took out the main person, the main man, you understand me, then the whole team kind of falls down. So I think that's definitely something that we definitely need to learn from, you know, from history. You know, the one man thing ain't necessarily going to work, because, you know, if we always have just one person at the front, then it's very easy just to get rid of that one person, and then, you know, everything falls down. So, yeah, I'd just like to kind of add that and just reiterate that, you know what I mean? We can't have the one leader thing. We got to send, you know what I mean? And even if there is like one, you know, like the premier leader, as it were, then it needs to be ensured that the information is being passed down. Because again, I think that's something that we've suffered from before. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like, you know, if I were to ask who was like Malcolm's or Martin's, you know what I mean, lieutenants, like who were the ones that were to carry on, you know, their message and whatever. Were there any?
yeah, like
a few people did try, because you had the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which did try and operate after his death, but it didn't last very long. So some people did try.
Okay. What's that one? All right.
He too much. I saw his message too.
Well, regardless of what, I mean, my thing is in the, you know what I mean, in the sentiment of there being no leader to a circle, and regardless, I think that's still a significant sentiment all the same. You know what I'm saying to you? Just like if we were to use CC, you with me? Like, it has to be a situation whereby, boom, even if, you know, fucking B2 emigrated and took his, you understand what I'm saying to you, and was no longer as, you know what I mean, available as today, it should still be that it continues in that same way. You understand what I'm saying to you?
You know what it needs then? I mean, anything like it needs, if the onus isn't on an individual, the onus then is on the process. So no matter who then
Indeed.
comes to occupy that thing, the process is so fine tuned that it protects itself. Do you get me? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why procedures and policies and such work, you know what I mean? You know, you've heard me say in the past, paperwork.
Paperwork.
You get me? You don't know. It's so important. You with me? And I'm not saying it because it's something that I've mastered myself. Don't get it twisted. But you with me? I'm trying to do it, but I do know its significance. You understand? So okay, I've got you, darling. I've got you. I've got you, Wun. Now that makes complete sense to me. Thank you. Are you correct? Thai women, I tell you, ever so fine to me.
What?
Have you? Yeah, you know, are you correct? Sometimes he does these little mad. Well, in fact, I shouldn't even say that, man, Carl. You don't know, but have you been to Thailand? Are you correct?
But yeah, on the leader thing, yeah, like I think it's better for there to be multiple leaders, isn't it? There has to be at least one
Absolutely.
leader in it in the group. But
Mm-hmm.
more leaders is better as long as it's not ego driven, isn't it? And it's like mission
Well, that's
driven.
such an sorry to cut in again, but that's such an important word that you use, brother E, when you say that as long as it's not ego driven. Because again, I think that something that many organizations have suffered from. That ego. That ego. Jeez, that ego. So yeah, again, I think that's a really it's a really important point that you made. And again, it just reiterates again the need for women in the mix of the sandwich. You understand me? Because when you have a balance of women, the man them can't get too egotistical. You understand me? So you laugh.
Mm.
But tell me I lie.
No, you're not
Mm.
lying.
All right.
For me, innit, I'm thinking it's not really necessary, yeah, like for that to be the case. Like I'm saying, I don't think it's like true to say that guys can't, do that without females about. But obviously, it's like I'm more for that.
Well, I mean, look, that's another debate for another day. But all men together is a recipe for a disaster. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't agree, man. But it's like it depends, isn't it? Like as
Well,
long as
give me a
people,
situation when all men together was not a disaster.
What are we talking about? We are talking about protecting the leaders, boys and girls. Come on now.
a football team.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a stress though.
All right, like I said, another day, another day. But yeah, keeping it back
Yeah,
on the thing.
Best thing
we're gonna
I've
do
been
that
having.
on misogyny versus misogyny part 2 on the Rice and Peas show, right?
But it's not even it's not even a versus thing, man. It's just a thing. It's harmony, isn't it? It's harmony, isn't it? It's
Oh
just getting
well,
back to that.
that now that's my language, but man, woman, and child that's my language right there. But we was talking about leaders, and as
But
when we
it
when we
still relates though, sis.
but when one of the things that wasn't mentioned, right, when we talked about at the beginning of the show, when we talked about leaders, right? We talked about what are some things that you see in a good leader. No one said being a woman, or no one said being a man. No one said the gender of the person. I think that um, we recognize that men have leadership qualities as well as women have leadership qualities. I don't think that, I think we have seen women leaders before. It's not like a taboo thing that we're like, oh, I don't know if a woman can lead, or lead in what capacity, or is she gonna, like, I just don't think that, at least the present day, that that's an issue. So I think a lot of people try to make it an issue, and they try to make it because it is a hot topic. It is an area of contention, that heightens those gender wars, right? But in our community, Black men see Black women leading in some sort of capacity all the time, right? Black women see Black men leading, and we're not like, oh my God, he's leading. We see that. So in our community, I don't think we have an issue with that. If anyone disagrees, they can chime in.
Didn't really see anything wrong with what you said. I can't really disagree with what you said.
What?
Cannot really disagree with what you mentioned. I can't disagree with it at all. But from what we've been discussing is really elaborated from what we started with. It's difficult trying to get it into one concise. It's almost like certain points, like a 10-point program on how to protect the leader, how to facilitate a leader, how to nurture a leader or leaders. But at the same time, we don't want to just rely on individual leaders. We want to rely on the collective, the organization. So there's not one leader, because you don't want to be in a situation where the leader is killed or destroyed and then the organization falls apart. So it's a bit more complicated than originally thought.
Yeah, I think that throughout the discussion, we ended up hitting other topics, because one of the areas that we didn't consider at first was looking at children as potential leaders. So then we began to talk about children and if they're being prepared for leadership and the environments that our children are in, and so forth. So that became another issue. And I guess it was recently just brought up the fact that we didn't, consider the gender of this leader. It was almost as if, we were, accustomed to having a male leader or and not even just a leader, because I think that the panel and I'm assuming the chat as well agreed that we don't really want one leader. We need different organizations. We need multiple strong, heavily supported organizations in our community. Maybe these organizations will have different functions. What in the world is the computer telling me right now? I don't know what this means.
What's that, sis? You good?
My computer is saying that I'm presenting to everyone. What does that mean?
Oh yeah, no, that's cool. Don't worry about that. That's cool.
Okay, that just threw me off for a second there. I was like, I'm sitting here in my role in my.
No, you're good.
What?
No, you're not presenting that much.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, don't be laughing at me, 1-1. So yeah, I think that we started getting into the whole like gender of the leader kind of conversation. So it might seem like it was like kind of all over the place like that, but I think that this topic of having a leader, since it's kind of shaky, I would say, for the Black community, this whole leader. Like every time someone is lifted up, like let's keep it real, there's some sort of scandal that comes out, they get arrested or something, or they're killed. Like everyone, it's really a problem. It's really, really, really a problem. Like, Europeans have their face carved in friggin' rock, and these people owned slaves, they were killers, they were murderers, they were horrible people. And we can't even get, a statue, like that looks decent. They have a Tupac statue. I don't know where it is, but it doesn't even look like him. It's really poorly made.
So just so I understand, in regards to protecting our leaders, first of all, we were talking if it was like within our organization, we would have different departments, legal department, a PR department, security department, media department, and a secret security department. And then we went on to talk about within this organization, we wouldn't just rely on individuals as leaders, it's a collective so that the organization never dies. So it's not a case of just relying on one person. We also mentioned that, I suggested that within the organization, we have a quota system where we have more women than men. But that's just me.
Right.
That's just me.
Yes, and we also talked about supporting these organizations financially, right? We also talked about basically positive propaganda, positive spreading, supporting through spreading links, spreading YouTube pages, Twitter, and social media, and also being active and actually joining these organizations. So contributing and supporting financially, and also being very active, right?
We also look to the future as well, because we were talking about future leaders, and then we started talking about institutions. So this could bring up the links that we've put in there, the UK Black Home Educators, there's a directory there. Then we had other organizations discussed, like the Manhood Academy, and then there's the Womanhood Academy. And these organizations also exist in America. Their links have been put in the chat, but that's if we're looking to the future. So we're thinking of persuading Black folk to put their kids through this form of educational system, because we feel that the Eurocentric system is actually not only dehumanizing them, but psychologically making them feel inferior. So that means you would have to take your kids out of the Eurocentric system, or keep them in the Eurocentric system, but on the weekends put them through Black home educational programs, I guess.
Yeah. Duality.
Exactly.
I think it comes down to paperwork as well. Like, because I was thinking about what you were saying in terms of like the leadership when it's one person, right? And I was trying to think of like times when things lasted past the person. And if you look at like religion or something like that, yeah, it's usually like it's in paper, right? There's some kind of document, there's something for constitution, there's something for people to follow. That's not like, that like outlives the person. And I think, yeah, as a community, maybe we need to like, get that down. So then, and then all of the leaders to agree to that, and then to work within that. And then it's like, yeah, when the leader gets taken out, we just keep going on with the plan.
But on what scale do you think?
The plan is the key word, man. I mean, sorry to cut in, but
that's cool.
It's just the key word, man. A plan, a blueprint, because not to, you know what I mean, put a dampener on shit, but I know that, or I would expect, let me see, that many of the organizations that have failed because of that very same, you know what I mean, thing that you just spoke of, and the lack of it. Do you understand?
Right.
Actual, and what we have to remember is that we are, I don't want to use the word competing, because that might not be the right word, but you know, we're looking to be in an arena with people that plan, and they plan like 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year. Like forecasting is an actual business. So, you know what I mean? We just have to really, you know what I mean? Like I said, have a realization into, you know what I mean? And really, yeah, car, it's real out here. And I just use the example again of, you know, you have in some communities, a woman might be pregnant right now. Remember, she didn't even drop the baby. She's only pregnant. And they've already planned to that ninth detail that little person's existence for the next 18 years. So I'm only using that as an example. You with me? Just to, you know, show the levels, man. Yeah. And again, going back to Obama was being primed for, I would suggest, a good 20 years before he actually got into the place where he was, man.
Right. And that's the reason why we was kind of pushing the Manhood Academy as you know, and people to support that organization, because, you know, we definitely want to be a part of that, and we want to prepare and cultivate our young little Black shining stars, that they can be little future Obamas and so forth, and leaders in our community. I will say it's about that time. I know you've been loving the convo at Constructive Convos, but it's about that time. The show is coming, about to wrap it up. But next week, make sure you come back next week, Monday at 9:30 UK time, 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. The subject is going to be on marriage in the Black community. Wow, wow, wow. This is a big topic, you know, and we want to hear what the family has to say on marriage. You know, are more people getting married? Should we just give it up at the institution? Should we go to the courts? Should we not go to the courts? We don't know. We don't know what people are going to say. So make sure you be in the building on Constructive Convos next week, 9:30 UK, 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Be there or be square. All right, peace, family.
All right, bless up, everyone in the chat. Bless up everyone in the panel.